We all know what the holiday season is supposed to be about, right? It's a time of warmth, joy, and light. A time for family, for giving, and for celebrating good triumphing over evil. We gather around sparkling trees, sing carols about peace on earth, and tell our kids stories about a kind, white-bearded man who brings gifts to good children. We've carefully built a season of comfort, a little fortress of cheer against the darkness at the end of the year. We feel safe in the glow of our fireplaces and the cozy familiarity of our traditions. But what if I told you that lurking in the shadows of our most cherished traditions are figures far older and far more terrifying than any ghost of Christmas past? That for every friendly gift giver, there's a sinister counterpart who doesn't bring presents but punishment? What if I told you that all that festive cheer is just a thin, fragile layer painted over a world of ancient, pagan terror? A world where demonic figures hunt for naughty children, where a monstrous cat devours the poorly dressed, and where a skeletal horse demands entry into your home through a rap battle. Tonight, we're pulling back the festive curtain. We're turning off the fairy lights and stepping into the cold dark of a European midwinter. This isn't the story of Santa Claus. This is the story of the creatures that crawl out of the shadows when the nights are longest. This is the dark side of our holiday traditions. Our journey into the holiday abyss begins in the imposing snow-draped mountains of the Alps across Austria and southern Germany. While we associate these picturesque landscapes with charming Christmas markets and carols like Silent Night, the ancient folklore here tells a very different story. The Christian celebrations of St. Nicholas didn't erase the pagan gods and monsters, it just forced them into a terrifying partnership. The church, trying to convert everyone, created this bizarre good cop, bad cop routine on a cosmic scale. The beloved St. Nicholas would reward the good kids, while his demonic enforcers would handle the wicked with brutal efficiency. And there is no enforcer more infamous, more visceral than the one they call Krampus. Long before our modern sanitized Christmas took hold, the children of the Alps didn't just fear getting coal in their stocking, they feared being beaten, chained, and dragged to hell. Krampus is the quintessential anti-Santa Claus, a horrifying creature born from pre-Christian pagan rituals. His appearance is pure nightmare fuel, a towering horned figure, half goat, half demon, covered in shaggy dark fur. He's got cloven hooves, a long pointed tongue hanging out of his mouth, and sharp fangs. He carries a bundle of birch rods, not for decoration, but to viciously beat children who have misbehaved. For the especially naughty ones, he doesn't just leave a warning. He carries a large sack or a wash tub on his back, shoves his victims inside, and carries them away to his fiery lair for a year of torment, or sometimes to be eaten. This terrifying figure isn't just some vague threat. He has his own night. On the evening of December 5th, known as Krampusnacht or Krampus Night, the beast is unleashed. Traditionally, on this night, men in villages would put on terrifying, hand-carved wooden masks, animal hides, and large clanging bells, and rampage through the streets. This was the Krampuslauf, or Krampus Run. They would chase villagers, rattling their chains and swinging their switches, a chaotic and primal procession meant to sow terror and purge the town of winter's evil spirits. St. Nicholas might show up on December 6th with his gifts and kindness, but the memory of Krampus's wrath would linger. It was a powerful incentive to be good.
The origins of Krampus are rooted in pagan winter solstice festivals designed to ward off the darkness and chaos of the longest nights. These ancient processions, known as Perchtenlauf, featured costumed figures representing both good spirits and evil spirits. When Christianity spread, it couldn't just stamp out these traditions, so it absorbed them. The horned, demonic figures of the pagan world were folded into Christian mythology, becoming the devilish companions of saints, a vivid and terrifying picture of the consequences of sin. And this tradition is anything but dead. In fact, Krampus is having a massive comeback. Cities across Austria, Germany, and even the United States now host huge Krampuslauf events that draw thousands of spectators. Participants spend months, even years, handcrafting elaborate costumes with grotesque wooden masks and suits made of real sheep or goat fur. Modern parades in cities like Salzburg and Munich are a full-blown spectacle of fire, smoke, and heavy metal music as hundreds of Krampuses run through the streets, their bells creating a deafening, chaotic roar. It's become a cherished cultural event, a thrilling connection to a darker, more primal past, reminding everyone that the holiday season once had teeth. But the Alpine punishers weren't the only monster stalking the winter. In parts of Germany and Austria, there's another, perhaps even more disturbing figure. Her name is Frau Perchta. At first glance, Perchta seems to embody a strange duality. Sometimes she appears as a beautiful, radiant woman in white robes, a kind spirit who rewards the good and hard-working. But she has another face, that of a haggard, ugly crone with an iron nose and a gnarled goose-like foot. And in this form she reveals her true terrifying purpose. Frau Perchta is an inspector of homes and souls, and she patrols the Alps during the 12 days of Christmas. Her judgment is absolute, and her punishments are grotesquely specific. Perchta is the enforcer of cultural taboos. She demands that homes be kept clean and that all the year's spinning, turning flax or wool into thread, be finished before the holy nights begin. She also insists that a specific meal, usually fish and porridge, be eaten on her feast day. To disobey is to invite a fate much worse than a beating. If Frau Perchta finds your home untidy or sees you've been lazy with your spinning, she takes out a long knife hidden in her skirts. Then she slits open your stomach, pulls out your organs, and replaces them with garbage, straw, and stones. For good and industrious people, she might leave a silver coin in their shoe, but the threat of her gruesome punishment was the main message. Like Krampus, Perchta's origins are pre-Christian. Many scholars believe she may have descended from a powerful Alpine goddess who oversaw nature, fertility, and fate. Spinning itself was a sacred act tied to the fabric of destiny, and the 12 nights of Christmas were a holy time when the spirit world was close. To work during this period was to disrupt the cosmic order. The church couldn't tolerate such a powerful female figure, so they launched a campaign to demonize her. The goddess was recast as a hideous Christmas witch. Her sacred duty of inspection was turned into a cruel rampage. They couldn't erase her, so they made her a monster. And the list of Alpine punishers goes on. In parts of Germany, there was Belsnickel, a fur-clad man who'd beat naughty children with a switch and throw candy on the floor for the good ones to make them scramble. In the Alsace region of France, there was Hans Trapp, a legendary evil nobleman who worshipped Satan. The story goes he disguised himself as a scarecrow to prey on children and was about to eat a shepherd boy he had captured before being struck by lightning. His ghost was then doomed to wander at Christmas, punishing naughty children as penance. All of these figures, from the demonic Krampus to the gut-slitting Perchta, served a clear purpose in a world of harsh winters and scarce resources. They were instruments of social control, terrifying folklore created to enforce obedience and community standards when survival depended on it. They are the shadows cast by St. Nicholas's cheerful light, a stark reminder that the holiday season once had teeth.
All right, let's leave the Alps behind and head north across the cold, dark sea to Iceland, a land of fire and ice where the winter nights are almost endless. Here, the holiday season, known as Yule, was a time of intense superstition where the veil between the human world and the world of trolls and monsters grew dangerously thin. Icelandic folklore doesn't just have one or two dark Christmas figures. It has a whole monstrous family that descends from the mountains to wreak havoc. At the head of this terrifying clan is the matriarch, Grýla. First mentioned in 13th century texts, Grýla is a monstrous, mountain-dwelling ogress. She's a grotesque figure with an insatiable appetite for the flesh of naughty children. All year she sits in her mountain cave, collecting whispers of children who misbehave. Then, as Yule approaches, she comes down from the mountains with a giant sack to hunt them. She snatches them from their homes, carries them back to her lair, and boils them alive in her cauldron to make a gruesome, naughty child stew. Her hunger is so legendary that it's said she once ate one of her former husbands out of boredom. Grýla is the ultimate bogeyman, a figure of pure terror used for centuries to scare children into being good. She isn't a complex figure like Perchta. She's a primal predator. She's married to a troll named Lwyd, who's mostly lazy and harmless, but sometimes helps her hunt for kids. But Grýla and Lwyd aren't alone. They have 13 sons, the infamous Yule lads, or Jólasveinar. Now, in modern Iceland, the Yule lads have been seriously cleaned up. They're often shown as mischievous but friendly guys in red and white suits who leave little gifts in shoes. Good kids get a toy. Naughty kids get a rotten potato. But that's a very recent family-friendly rebranding. The original Yule lads were not jolly gift-givers. They were a gang of troll-like criminals whose only purpose was to harass and steal from people during the darkest time of the year. Each of the 13 brothers had a name that perfectly described his personal brand of mischief. The first to arrive on December 12th is Stekkjarstaur, or sheepcoat Clod. He has stiff peg legs and tries to bother sheep, but is usually too clumsy to succeed. He's followed by Giljagaur, Gullygawk, who hides in ravines, waiting to sneak into the cowshed and steal the foam off fresh milk. Next is Stufur, Stubby, who's super short and steals frying pans just to eat the crusty bits left stuck to them. Then comes Stomach-Slitting, Spoon Licker, a tall, thin lad obsessed with stealing and licking wooden spoons. He's followed by Pottaskeffel, Pot Scraper, who steals pots to scrape out the leftovers. Next is Askaslakir, Bowl Licker, who hides under beds waiting for people to put down their wooden bowls so he can snatch them and lick them clean. The seventh lad is Hurðurskellir, Door Slammer. He gets his kicks from slamming doors in the middle of the night to wake everyone up. Then comes Skýrgámur, Skyr Gobbler, who has a massive appetite for skyr, the Icelandic yogurt, and breaks into pantries to eat it all. The ninth lad is Bjugnakreikir, Sausage Swiper. He hides in the rafters to snatch sausages that are being smoked. He's followed by Gluggagæir, Window Peeper, a creepy voyeur who peers into windows looking for things to steal.
The 11th is Gautathifur, doorway sniffer, who has a huge nose he uses to find and steal laufbröd, a traditional Christmas bread. Next is Kettkrokur, meat hook, who uses a long hook to steal meat, sometimes snatching the holiday roast right out of the pot. And finally, on Christmas Eve comes Kertasníkir, candle stealer. In a time before electricity, he would follow children to steal their tallow candles, leaving them in darkness. This parade of 13 troublemakers represented the constant anxiety of winter life. They were personifications of scarcity and chaos. Their crimes, stealing food, milk, and light, were direct attacks on a household's ability to survive. As if a cannibalistic ogress and her 13 delinquent sons weren't enough, the family has a pet, the Yule Cat. This is no cuddly kitten. The Yule Cat is a gigantic, monstrous feline that prowls the Icelandic countryside at Yuletide, and it preys on anyone, child or adult, who hasn't received a new piece of clothing to wear before Christmas. If you fail, the Yule Cat hunts you down and eats you. This terrifying tradition sounds bizarre, but it had a very practical purpose. It was a powerful motivator for farmhands to finish processing the autumn wool before Christmas. Landlords would reward their hard-working laborers with new clothes. So, getting new clothes was a sign you'd done your job. If you were lazy, you got no new clothes, leaving you vulnerable to the Yule Cat. It was a grim folktale designed to prevent idleness and encourage charity, as giving new clothes to the less fortunate could save them from the cat's jaws. Together, Grilla, the Yule Lads, and the Yule Cat are a trinity of holiday terror unique to Iceland, a chilling reminder that for many, winter was not a celebration, but a battle for survival. Next up, we're venturing into the mist-shrouded lands of the Celts, where skeletal horses and ghostly parades await. Look, digging up these centuries-old stories takes a lot of work, so if you're enjoying this trip into the dark side of the holidays, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It helps ensure these ancient tales aren't lost to the shadows forever. Now, let's head to Wales.
For our final stop, we're heading to the wind-swept, rain-lashed British Isles and the heart of Celtic culture. Here, winter solstice traditions aren't so much about monsters who punish kids, but about something more ethereal and arguably more unsettling, the thinning of the veil between the world of the living and the other world, the realm of spirits and the dead. Nowhere is this more apparent than in the bizarre and haunting Welsh tradition of the Mari Lwyd. Picture this. It's a cold, dark night between Christmas and New Year's. You hear a knock and singing at your door. You open it to find a group of revelers led by a figure of pure, surreal nightmare. A real horse's skull, decorated with colorful ribbons and bottle glass eyes, mounted on a pole. A person, hidden under a white sheet, carries the skull, snapping its jaw open and shut. This is the Mari Lwyd, which means gray mare. This isn't a friendly caroling visit. The Mari Lwyd and its party are here to challenge you. They sing verses demanding entry, and you and your household have to sing back, wittily denying them access. This rhyming battle of wits, a poetic duel known as a punko, is full of clever insults and playful boasts. Eventually, the homeowners are expected to gracefully lose the contest. The Mari Lwyd is then welcomed inside, given food and drink, and its presence is believed to bring good luck and cleanse the home of evil spirits for the new year. The origins of the Mari Lwyd are mysterious, but almost certainly pre-Christian. The horse was a sacred animal in Celtic mythology, often linked to fertility and the other world.
The Lwyd's pale skeletal form could symbolize the transition from the death of the old year to the birth of the new. The entire ritual is a strange and beautiful mix of festive and macabre, a community game played with a symbol of death to ensure life and prosperity. And after declining in the 20th century, the Lwyd has seen a powerful modern revival across Wales, a living piece of ancient folklore. This focus on the porous barrier between worlds at midwinter is a core part of Celtic spirituality, and its most powerful expression is the ancient festival of Samhain. Pronounced Samhain, Samhain was celebrated around November 1st. It marked the end of the harvest and the beginning of the dark half of the year, a time associated with decay and death. Crucially, Samhain was believed to be a time when the boundaries between our world and the other world dissolved. Spirits of the dead, gods, fairies, and other supernatural beings could walk freely among the living. This wasn't always a good thing. To protect themselves, people began guising, wearing costumes and masks. The logic was simple. Disguise yourself as a ghoul or spirit, and you could fool them into thinking you were one of them. The first jack-o'-lanterns weren't pumpkins, but hollowed-out turnips with grotesque faces carved into them, meant to either represent the spirits or ward them off. People also left offerings of food and drink outside to appease the wandering spirits, a clear precursor to modern trick-or-treating. If this all sounds familiar, it should. When Irish and Scottish immigrants came to America in the 19th century, they brought these traditions with them. Over time, Samhain evolved into modern Halloween. The name itself is Christian, All Hallows' Eve, the night before All Saints' Day, a date the Church strategically placed to co-opt the pagan festival. But the core of Halloween, the costumes, trick-or-treating, jack-o'-lanterns, and the general association with ghosts and monsters are all direct descendants of the dark, pagan rituals of Samhain. The influence of these Celtic traditions even bleeds into Christmas. Hanging mistletoe, a sacred plant to the Druids, was a symbol of fertility and life. Burning a Yule log was meant to symbolically hold back the darkness during the solstice. In Celtic traditions, we see a different kind of darkness. It's not the visceral horror of Krampus or Grilla. It's a deeper, more atmospheric dread. The fear of a world where the dead don't stay dead, and where festive lights are a desperate shield against the ancient, spiritual darkness that surrounds us.
From the Alpine peaks to Iceland's volcanic fields and the misty glens of the Celtic Isles, the message is clear. The holiday season we know today, all unblemished joy and commercial cheer, is a modern invention, a brightly lit room built on top of ancient, dark foundations. Beneath the friendly face of Santa Claus lies the demonic glare of Krampus. In place of a gentle housewife baking cookies, there's the stomach-slitting witch, Frau Perchta. The mischievous elves in the workshop are a pale shadow of the 13 Yule lads, a gang of thieves, and their cannibal mother, Grilla. The very traditions we embrace, from hanging mistletoe to carving pumpkins, are echoes of a time when these rituals were about survival, appeasing vengeful spirits and warding off monstrous beasts. These figures were born from a primal fear of the dark, the cold, and the unknown. They were manifestations of our need to impose order on the chaos of winter, to enforce community standards when one lazy person could endanger the whole village. They are the scary stories we stopped telling our children. So, this holiday season, as you gather in the warmth and light of your home, take a moment. Listen past the cheerful carols for the distant rattle of chains.
Look into the fire and wonder what ancient, monstrous faces might be looking back. And ask yourself, have you been good this year? Because while you may have forgotten about them, the dark and ancient things that lurk in the shadows of Christmas, they haven't forgotten about you. Which of these traditions would you least want to encounter on a dark winter's night? Let me know down in the comments. And for more journeys into the forgotten corners of history and folklore, make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on. Stay curious and perhaps stay inside.